So we're back with example 4, and in this case we have the US Census Bureau data indicates that the average price P of a digital television, this is way before HD, can be expressed as a linear function of the number of sets sold in thousands. In addition, when 6,485 sets were sold, the price was $504.39. And when 7,485 sets were sold, the price was $493.99. We're asked to write an equation of the line determined by this information. So anytime that I have to write an equation, I want to try to write it in slope-intercept form. And to do that, I need the y-intercept. And in this case, I was not given the y-intercept. So when we do not have the y-intercept, everyone, we are stuck using point-slope form, which I have written here for us. And what we need for point slope form is a y1 value, a slope, and an x1 value. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. We do have 2 points that we were given because of the information shared with us here. Our first point is going to be 6,485 as our x value and 504.39 as our y value. Our second point is going to be 74.85 as an x value and 493.99 as a y value. And so again, for point slope form, we do need the slope. And so I'm going to use the slope formula in just a moment. I am going to label these x1, y1, x2, y2. And again, to do the slope formula, we need y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so as you do this, again, I'm going to really strongly suggest that you put these minus signs on here before you put numbers in so that you don't end up forgetting a negative sign. And so to start, we've got y2 minus y1, which is 493.99. Minus 504.39. And then x2 minus x1 is 74.85 minus 64.85. And so again, we are not going to choose to do those sort of things by hand. We are going to bring Wolfram in to help us out. And you'll see here as I bring Wolfram in that I've actually already done this, but I made a typo and I had to redo my video because of my typo. I accidentally put 439 instead of 493. And so there we go. That's going to fix that up. And I'm just going to check on my other numbers really quickly. That looks much better now. And you could use the decimal in this place. I'm going to always choose to use a fraction to represent slope. It's just the way that I like to do things. And so we do have negative 13 over 1250 as our slope that is going to be used as part of this equation. So with that, everyone, we do have a slope, we do have an x1 value, and we do have a y1 value. So we can go ahead and create the equation for this line in point slope form. So again, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so our y value is just going to stay y. Our y1 value, going back up here, is 504.39. So we're going to bring that 504.39 back in for us down here. Our slope we found to be negative 13 over 1250. Then we have our x value minus x1 is 64.85. And again, I got that 64.85 from right here where we identified both the x1 value and the y1 value that were going to go into this point slope form equation. So everyone, that does do the job of creating an equation that represents the relationship between these two things. We are going to be asked further, though, to identify and interpret the meaning of the slope and to identify and interpret the meaning of the y-intercept. So We're going to go ahead and bring Wolfram back on the scene, because the way that I like to do this is I like to always deal with slope-intercept form. And so if we give this to Wolfram, it will actually do the job of changing this into slope-intercept form for us, which will make our lives way easier. And again, I'm always going to check my input line right here to make sure that Wolfram is interpreting what I gave it correctly, and it looks like it is. So we're going to be looking for a thing called alternate forms. And so this is the alternate form right here. So here's our y equals mx plus b. They did put the b before the mx, which is kind of odd. So I'm going to copy that straight out of Wolfram, everyone. These two equations are going to be equivalent. They will have the exact same meaning. Oops, and I don't want the highlighter, I want the pen. So we are going to have y equals negative 13 over 1250 x plus 571.834. And so, per usual, the number attached to the x is going to be our slope, and the number that's over here by itself is going to be our y-intercept, or the initial value. We are asked to, so I've identified them, and I'm also asked, I believe, to interpret them. So let's give a shot at interpreting these and see if we can make sense of it. So again, I paused myself there so you wouldn't have to watch me write it, and we would just rather discuss it here at the end. So the slope is negative 13 over 1,250, meaning that for every 1,250 TV sets sold, the price per TV set drops by $13. And so you can see, and again, we'll talk about this more later, that as more units of something are sold, the price tends to drop. This will be something we discuss in terms of the law of supply and demand in a later section. That being said, moving on to the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 571.834, meaning that the price of the very first TV set sold would have been $571.83. That's it for this example. On to example 5.